Let's get reaction now as a criminal law expert Allis joins me now to give us his take. Ian, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Firstly, the Hawks report does mention significant arrests related to the VBS scandal. What legal complexities do cases involving public officials and municipal funds typically entail?
Good afternoon, Clara, and good evening, good afternoon to the viewers as well. The problem, yes, it's a complicated matter, but one must also look at the time that's already been spent. It's already been over 6 years. They've never really gotten anywhere with the investigation. To be taking this period of time and saying, now we have 30 people, not one person's been convicted. Yes, there's the liquidator. We don't know what the standing is with the liquidators. We don't know what has in actual fact come out of any inquiries. There's suspicion of who's involved and who's not involved, even with political and highly influential individuals. They take it a little bit like they're untouchable, and that's where the problem comes. So it's, yes, we've made some arrests. We've arrested a bank teller here and a manager there and the cleaner over there. Well, we've done a fantastic job. This is the problem. And how much money has actually been spent by the taxpayers with this? That needs to be the question that has to be answered. It's wonderful that we spend millions upon millions of rands investigating stuff just so that the kingpins can sit and laugh and somebody goes ahead and covers up for another person.
Yeah. So with this said, how effective have the Hawks been in really addressing corruption and financial crimes like those associated with VBS Mutual Bank, but also considering the challenges of tracing laundered money?
Let me put it to you this way. They haven't done a bad job, especially as of late, but it's as of late. It's in certain aspects 5, 6, 7, 8 years too late. The Starhoff matter, for instance, started off, and if I'm not mistaken, it was 2017. We're now 2024. The likelihood that you're going to trace where all of those funds ended up going is near impossible after this time. One continues to see the same pattern of, if one could go ahead and say, too little, too late at the wrong times. The fact that it took this extent of time to get used to the Hawks, I'm sorry, but there's certain aspect where where the statistics dare to flatter. Yeah. And the problem with that, it's a bit like having since we're in World Cup season, it's a bit like having a win, but you've won against the minnow teams that aren't even in a World League. You've gotten some small fish, and that is basically it, and you're hooing about it. That's where the problem comes. Is maybe if they talked less and actually investigated more into certain of these crimes and dealt with it in a more timeous fashion. It doesn't need to take 7 years to try and now investigate into money laundering on Starhoff. That should have been investigated already in 2018 and in 2017, and after the stock market crashed on the values. That should have been when it kicked in.
Regarding the Starhoff scandal, what legal hurdles does the prosecution face in cases involving high-profile individuals accused of white-collar crimes, such as Marcus Jooste, for instance?
Well, that's still going to debate a conspiracy whether he really is dead or alive, but that's a different issue. The problem that they're going to encounter is that most of those records are not going to just be sitting and available. There's a lot of red herrings involved in that. So one must actually start looking from the beginning of when it actually took place. So, for example, when the initial transactions started to expand, and they're going to have to interview people like Vista, like the guys from Momentum who actually assisted and were senior board members. They can't just tie it down to 3 people that were involved in running this whole business. They need to take a look at where those monies were coming in order to set up a scam of that type of nature, where you're basically buying stuff for monopoly money and paying monopoly money because the company's not worth it. Somebody must have known earlier on in 2017 that was built on a house of cards.
So the report also mentions the tragic deaths of 22 police officers during the fourth quarter. From a legal perspective, how does the loss of law enforcement personnel actually impact criminal investigations, but also public safety?
The problem is that those are tip of the iceberg when it comes to our attacks on law enforcement. And the problem is, if you actually check continuously the amount of police stations that are being robbed of ammunition and guns, that is even bigger travesty. The fact is, our police are under siege, and you've already lost a huge number of qualified, well-educated detectives in the process in the last few years to the private industry, where they get better salaries and better working conditions. The problem is, of course, it's going to go ahead and impact gravely, because if you're losing somebody with 20 years of experience and bringing somebody in with 3 months of experience out of the academy, of course it's going to take them a long time to learn, and of course it's going to have an impact on how matters are going to be investigated. So the attack on our police resources, be it on duty or off duty, is horrific.
Mm-hmm. So with 68 suspects arrested for drug-related offences, also the dismantling of drug laboratories, what legal strategies are effective, Ian, in really combating drug trafficking, but also organised crime in South Africa?
Well, what it is that in something like that, the main thing that they can do is start tracing the roots. And the drugs don't get in here easily, and also taking a look at the registration for certain of the drugs, because different drugs require also different ingredients, and some are very locally available and manufactured because they're more synthetic. Taking a look and seeing where these massive orders are coming, have more stringent stock control and checks, and work together with the pharmaceutical companies to actually try and see and crack down on where and assist with stock theft and where these might in actual fact be going. So you have to almost have a more stringent control over a lot of the chemicals that go into those drugs to begin with. Once you can find that, you can find where they're going, and once you can find they're going, you can trace the routes in and out.
How significant are the achievements of the Hawks in recovering assets related to state capture cases? And what legal mechanisms ensure that recovered funds are properly managed and utilized as well?
They've been improving lately. They actually have been improving quite a bit. And looking at the figures, is in terms of the POCA Act, which is the Prevention of Organised Crime Act, it gives the police and the Asset Forfeiture Unit a lot of leeway to work with. So there's still issues with how those are being administered post the forfeiture. That's where the problem actually comes, because whether or not they've been auctioned correctly, or who's involved in that and who's been given the contracts by the state to actually administer over the forfeited assets, that's a different issue, and that needs to be addressed. But they have been improving. But as I say, once again, a lot of it is more soft targets. Is they do know that there's higher end people, especially guys at more senior level in the political parties and with incredible influence, but they seem to still be the untouchables of the country.
Ian Allis, let me thank you so much for your time, of course, helping us unpack the Hawks releasing the fourth quarter crime stats